Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk My Hero Academia, chapter 221. Here we go. What was this chapter called? Like, I forget. Wait, let me just check. All for One's Parting Gift. There we go. Alright, cool. Guys, if you are wanting to talk about the old man, I've made another video that has a few more images, just talking about what's going on in those theory things. So the majority of the talk of the old man will be in that video. It was uploaded with this video, so you guys can just go find it after you're done watching this one. But yeah, let's talk about this chapter overall. So if I was to categorize this chapter, I would say that this is a transition chapter. Transition chapters, they tend to pause certain storylines and then they move into another spot. Another thing of transition chapters is that they start filling you with information, but they don't really give you anything you can act on. And that's kind of what this chapter is. We got information on Giganto or Makia, and we got information on the Doctor, sort of. We just got more elaboration on that. We got more elaboration on his plot lines, but we end the chapter with a prompt for Shigaraki. So it's effectively a transition because the action of that final page is going to be resolved in the next chapter. So that's why I would call it a transition chapter. Of course, it always helps when we're moving from scene to scene or moving across set pieces. That always helps. Now, does that make the chapter bad? No, not really. Transition chapters just serve to kind of pause things a little bit. You get a bit of a breather. It slows down the momentum. But given that Shigaraki and his crew was already beaten on the ground, you know, what can you say? They were already kind of like paused. Now, what are the interesting things in this chapter? Well, this chapter does give a lot of important details. Let's go back to the beginning. One of the very first important details is pretty much Makia's background. We get a little bit more of Makia's characterization. We get a little bit more of him talking hard. We find out that he was a bodyguard, and we find out that he has multiple quirks. Now, last chapter I pointed it out that he probably has multiple quirks. I also point out he might be Kirishima's idol, but that's still a far off theory. But the whole thing with multiple quirks, that made sense to me because when you look at Makia, he has weird features. His thinking capacity has been reduced. He's approaching Nomu-like levels, but he's able to handle it somehow. Yeah, you know, all those things together just made it seem to me like, yeah, he probably has multiple quirks. So it's nice to get it confirmed here. Now, everything that I've seen him do here still screams to me manly in the way that Kirishima says it. It still like just yells it at me. So I'm still on that conspiracy train of, oh yeah, this might be Crimson Riot. Right? Was it Crimson Riot? Is that his name? Yeah, I think that was his name. Anyway, I think it might still be him, but you know, like, well, I'll give that 20 more chapters and then we'll see what's going on. Another important detail is that we find out that the Doctor is most likely the one that has the teleportation quirk. Now, one thing to note here is that Dobby knows this man's name. This teleportation quirk that they're using, it seems that this is already kind of out in the open because Dobby's already aware of what the high ends look like. He was already involved with the high end. He already used the teleportation before. So that's really interesting. I guess I'll put down my bet. I'm betting that the Doctor is the one with the teleportation quirk. Although there is still that probability, but I'm going to lock in my bet for that one. Now, of course, one of the most important things to take out of this whole teleportation quirk business is really asking the question, why does Dobby have that pre-existing relationship with the Doctor? What's going on there? Were they acquainted after he joined the League, or were they acquainted before he joined the League? It's just very odd, right? That Shigaraki is not getting access to these high ends, whereas Dobby got to play around with them and got to get teleported out of there by whoever has the teleportation quirk. This also does forward that narrative that All for One can copy quirks, just duplicate them instead of just flat out stealing them. That's also very important to note. The next important detail is, well, all the Nomus. Like, there is a lot of Nomus. There's even a female Nomu. Am I interested? Yeah. Like, look, man. The premise with the Nomus is that each Nomu can cause the destruction that All for One caused. We've seen what the first high-end Nomu did. Like, come on, man. You know this is going to be mayhem on the streets if all these things were to be unleashed all at once, and that would be so cool. Now, it's hard to tell what kind of quirks the Nomus are rocking with. Who knows? It looks like the Nomu that, well, Endeavor beat up is getting regenerated because it looks a lot like that first one. But we'll have to see in the future. Honestly, I am scared for Hero Society if the Nomus all get unleashed at once. Like, let's face it. No one in Hero Academia has shown that they can take on a Nomu safely. Not even All Might when he was taking on the first Nomu, because All Might still needed a little bit of help. Mind you, that was because he was degrading and he was injured, he was running out of time. But the point still stands, like the Nomus have been a strong force. The only Nomus that really got wiped easily were the ones that Stain went after and maybe the one that Endeavor went after. But even then, that's like low grade. I'm not sure how the high ends are gonna... Man, the high ends are just represent absolute danger, and that's pretty exciting. Although it's also very scary. If the kids in Class 1A beat a high end, that's gonna be a bit of a problem. Like the author's gonna have to do a really good job as to justify how those kids could beat him, or beat a high end. Anyway, with that, we find the doctor's place, his area. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it's a 95% shot that this doctor is Izuku's, or the doctor that diagnosed Izuku with being quirkless. You guys could go see the video if you really want to about that. But yes, that's the bandwagon I'm riding. It just makes sense. Like, there's a lot of things that this doctor has in common with Izuku's doctor. There's a lot of really sketchy things about him, like him saying that he might have seen them sometime in life. He doesn't want to give away his address. He doesn't want to, well, like what else? He came up with a fake name. Like, it all screams someone that has a public identity, and it's better for villains to not know of his public identity. Anyway, within his plotline, we just find out that he is very devoted to All for One, that he has made the Nomu, that he's a mad scientist, and throughout their interaction, we know that Shigaraki does in fact want to duplicate those quirk bullets. Now, I'm not too sure, man. I don't think this doctor is going to be able to duplicate the quirk bullet without Eri. I remember that Overhaul said that they got to a stage where they didn't really need Eri anymore, but I think that's... Overhaul had company secrets. He had trade secrets. So the doctor not having those, I don't know if they can duplicate those bullets that easily. Which, like, brings up the point, are we going to get an everyone's coming after Eri arc? Because that's going to be terrifying if everyone starts gunning for the same little girl. But that might give more reason, or it might give more weight as to why Aizawa kept Eri at UA. Like, you know, the moment that Eri moved into the UA compound, it's cool and all, and the author did a good job of explaining why, but it was also weird. Like, was there really anything stopping Eri from being put in some kind of special care facility? You know, like, ask that question. Was there anything really stopping her? Was there anything stopping her from going to a maximum security care facility? When you think about it, even if mutations are rare, quirks are dangerous. There must be a lot of kids who have very dangerous quirks who accidentally killed their parents. What happens to those kids in the system? Like, I get it. The author did a really good job of justifying why Eri is there. But if we're going into a future where Eri's going to be a target, it makes more sense as to why the author set her up in UA. Because he was expecting to get some kind of value out of that. Now, if we have a UA invasion, it makes more sense why they're invading UA if they're going after the one girl that can ruin everything, right? Mind you, that's still like really hardcore speculation. And like I said, because the author did a good enough job justifying Eri's presence in UA, it might have been just that, just a really good justification for some other end. The villains might never come into contact with Eri. It's just, you know, we're still at that point of speculation, and I'm very intrigued about the bullets. The bullets, I feel, are just too easy for Shigaraki to just have them. It's too easy for him to ruin people. So that's why I'm feeling that, you know, there's gonna be a few more obstacles when it comes to the bullet storyline. Now, throughout this whole little talk with the doctor, there is something important to note at the final page. The final page, you know, calls Shigaraki out for being trash of society, and it leaves Shigaraki with the same question that Spinner has. And it's important to note that Spinner gets that little bit of focus at the end of the page. Specifically, you know, it's what is going to be your next move, Shigaraki. So from the way the author is setting this up, you know, this tells me, okay, this arc is going to be about Shigaraki proving himself. Maybe he'll take that first step to winning Gigantomachia over. Maybe he'll take that first step to getting more charisma. And then he's also telling me that this arc is going to be focused on Spinner. Throughout this arc, you know, I think maybe Spinner's going to come face to face with, you know, what he really wants to do. Does he really want to follow Shigaraki? Maybe Spinner's going to be the one that is the symbol of Shigaraki's newfound charisma, or maybe it's going to be Machia. It's very interesting. I'm hoping that Spinner goes his own way, but honestly, I don't see Spinner easily surviving events if he decides to go his own way. It's going to be an interesting arc. We are already, let's see, 218, 219, 220, 221. We're 4 chapters in to the Liberation Army arc, right? And already 3 of those chapters, or 2 of those chapters, have been spent with Shigaraki's crew. I think it's 2. Pretty interesting setup so far, and we know that we're in for a while because Shigaraki's group still hasn't even met the Liberation Army. I'm excited, but there's a lot of things being brought up that I am interested in, but it's still not enough details have come together for me to make good conclusions about where we're going, what kind of things are we aiming at, what are going to be the goals of this arc. So guys, you all let me know, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen with the new information given in this chapter? Has this changed your trajectory of expectations, or are you still on the same line of expectations that you had in the previous chapter? Most likely you are, because transition chapters don't really serve to change the landscape of the scene, or the landscape of the scenery. But yeah, let me know what you thought down below, and until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.